Welcome back to the deep dive. If you have been with us for a while, you know we usually like to start with something a bit abstract, a philosophy, a trend, maybe a bit of future gazing.
Yeah, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. But today we're getting our hands dirty. We are looking at a stack of research spreadsheets and some frankly terrifying data points that all point to one thing. If you are running a small or medium-sized business right now, specifically in a tech hub like Austin, Texas, you are probably exhausted.
Exhausted is, putting it mildly, I would say under siege is probably more accurate based on the documents we've been reviewing this week.
It is that bad.
It is visceral. We are looking at what we are calling the hiring hellscape. And look, I know that sounds dramatic. We try to avoid hyperbole on this show.
We do.
But when you peel back the layers of what used to be called Silicon Hills, Austin, Texas, and look at the math facing a business owner in 2025 or even now, the numbers just do not add up anymore.
That is really the core of today's deep dive, isn't it? We have two very distinct parts to this story. Part one is the problem.
The collapse.
The collapse of the traditional hiring model for SMEs in these high-cost cities. We're using Austin as our case study, but this applies if you're in San Francisco, New York, London, or Toronto.
Absolutely.
It is the story of why you cannot find an executive assistant for less than the price of a luxury car.
And part two is the solution. I want to caveat this early. Usually, when we talk about solutions in the labor market, people roll their eyes and say, oh, great, AI robots, or, oh, great, cheap offshore labor that I have to micromanage.
Right, the race to the bottom.
Exactly. But the research we have today points to something different. We are looking 8,000 miles southeast of Austin. We are looking at South Africa.
Okay.
And specifically, we are looking at a managed agency model called VAConnect that seems to be flipping the script on how we think about remote talent.
We are going to get into the South African advantage and this concept of geography as destiny, which I love. But before we find the lifeboat, we have to understand why the ship is sinking.
You have to know the problem before you can appreciate the solution.
So let's talk about Austin.
Let's do it.
So 5, maybe 7 years ago, Austin was the promised land. Silicon Hills.
The place to be.
Low taxes, great barbecue, affordable housing compared to the Bay Area. Tech giants moved in. Oracle, Tesla, Apple expanded. It was supposed to be a utopia for business. What happened between, say, 2020 and 2025?
Well, success happened. And success has a price tag. The data shows that the influx of these mega-cap tech companies fundamentally broke the local labor market for everyone else.
Broke it how?
If you are Google, you can pay a receptionist $90,000 a year and not blink. It is a rounding error on your balance sheet.
But if you are a local marketing agency with 10 employees?
It is an existential crisis. You are effectively priced out of your own zip code. We have this one anecdote in the source notes that I think perfectly encapsulates the madness. It is about a marketing agency owner in East Austin.
Oh, this story. It made my blood pressure spike just reading it. I mean, it's just painful.
It is painful, right?
Right.
So she needs an executive assistant, an EA. Now, let's be clear about what this role is. It is crucial. They run the calendar, they handle travel, they keep the chaos at bay.
Absolutely essential.
But it is not rocket science. It is not brain surgery. It is an administrative support role.
Historically, what? A $45,000 to $50,000 a year job?
Historically, yes. Maybe even $40,000 starting out a decade ago.
Yeah.
So she starts looking, she posts the job, and she waits. And she interviews. She spends 9 months trying to fill this seat.
9 months. That is 3 financial quarters. That is an entire pregnancy.
And in that time, she is doing the job herself. She is not doing strategy. She's not selling to clients. She is booking flights and answering emails.
That's a massive opportunity cost right there.
Huge. But finally, after 43 interviews.
43. I cannot even imagine the scheduling nightmare of 43 interviews. Just finding the time for that is a full-time job.
It is. But she finds a guy, a former Apple employee. Great resume. But because he is coming from that big tech ecosystem and because the market is so tight, unemployment in Austin is sitting at like 3.3%, he holds all the cards.
Okay, so what is the damage? What does he ask for?
He demands $78,000 a year.
$78,000 for an executive assistant.
$78,000 base, plus equity, plus full benefits.
And she pays it. I mean, she has to, right?
She pays it because she is desperate. She is drowning in admin work. So she hires him. And here is the kicker, the part that really hurts.
I'm almost afraid to ask.
3 months later, 90 days in, he walks into her office and quits.
Poached.
Poached. A tech startup down the street offered him $95,000.
That is, it is actually insane. It feels like a bubble that has to burst,
Yep.
but for the small business owner, they're just trapped in the blast radius.
That's the perfect analogy.
Yeah,
You're bringing a knife to a nuclear fight. You just can't compete on salary with a venture-backed startup or a trillion-dollar tech giant.
the numbers don't lie.
They don't. The Bureau of Labor Statistics showed Austin's average hourly wage hitting over $34 an hour in 2024. That is 17% above the national average.
So if you are that agency owner, you are looking at your P&L sheet and you are thinking, I literally cannot make the math work.
You can't. And that brings us to the section of our notes titled The Hidden Costs. Because sadly, that $78,000 salary is not even the real number.
Right.
We need to talk about the base salary illusion.
This is the stuff that I think a lot of first-time founders or even experienced managers just gloss over. We do what I call napkin math.
Napkin math, I like that.
You say, okay, $50,000 salary divide by 12. That is roughly $4,100 a month. I can afford that.
And that napkin math will bankrupt you. You have to look at the fully loaded cost.
Yeah.
Let's break down the mandatory add-ons. These are not optional perks. These are federal and state requirements.
The acronym SOUP, FICA, FUTA, SUTA.
Yeah.
Exactly. FICA, Federal Insurance Contributions Act. That is Social Security and Medicare. That is 7.65% right off the top of every dollar you pay.
Gone before they even see it.
Then you have FUTA, Federal Unemployment, and SUTA, State Unemployment.
Which basically is you paying for the privilege of possibly laying them off later.
A cynical take, but an accurate one. But the big one, the one that is skyrocketing, is health insurance. We have data here from the Kaiser Family Foundation.
Yeah, I am looking at this chart. It is a hockey stick graph trending straight up. It's terrifying.
For single coverage, the average annual premium is trending toward $8,435.
Wow.
That is just for one healthy single person. If you are hiring someone with a family, you are looking at $15,000 to $23,000 a year in premiums.
And in a market like Austin, where candidates have 43 other options, you cannot just say, oh, we do not cover health insurance. You will get laughed out at the interview. You have to pay a significant chunk, usually 70 to 100% of that premium to be competitive.
So suddenly your $50,000 employee is actually costing you, what, almost $60,000 before they even sit down at a desk?
Closer to $65,000 just to keep them legal and healthy.
But we are not done, are we? Because they need a place to sit. They need a computer.
The invisible overhead. Real estate. Now, remote work has changed this slightly, but most businesses still have an office footprint. In Austin's central business district, rent averages $25.43 per square foot.
And you need, what, 150 square feet per person? Something like that?
Roughly, yes. By the time you factor in the desk, the chair, the circulation space room to walk to the coffee machine, it's about 150 square feet.
Okay, so do the math on that.
It's nearly $4,000 a year just to house the body.
Unbelievable. Then you have to equip them.
Laptops, monitors, and the software stack. This is the one that creeps up on people. Microsoft 365, Slack, Zoom, Asana, maybe a Salesforce license.
All subscription-based.
All of it. You are easily spending $200 to $300 a month per head just on SaaS subscriptions. That's another $3,000 a year.
So when we total this all up, the taxes, the insurance, the rent, the gear.
We call it the Austin arithmetic. That employee with the $50,000 price tag actually costs the business between $68,000 and $87,000 annually.
That is a markup of anywhere from 36 to 74%.
It is a massive premium. And remember the turnover story. The guy who left after 3 months.
The turnover time bomb.
The Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, says replacing an employee costs 6 to 9 months of their salary.
6 to 9 months.
That's what the data shows.
Yeah.
So if that person leaves in 90 days, you have not just lost their output, you have lost the recruiting fees, the training time, the institutional knowledge. It is a financial disaster.
It really paints a bleak picture. It feels like the system is just rigged against the small player.
It is.
You quoted a founder in the notes who said, the problem isn't finding people, it's finding people who won't bankrupt us before they jump ship in 6 months.
That is the reality on the ground. And that is why we have to widen our aperture. We have to look at the mission of this deep dive, which is to explore if there is a viable alternative.
A real alternative.
Not a Band-Aid, but a structural fix. And that leads us to VAConnect and the South African market.
Okay, so let's pivot. we are leaving Texas. We are flying 8,000 miles southeast. We land in Cape Town.
A beautiful place, by the way.
I've heard. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here because I know our listeners are thinking it. When people think outsourcing, they usually think of three places.
Yep.
The Philippines, India, or maybe Eastern Europe.
Mm.
South Africa seems unexpectedly off the radar.
It is off the radar for the mainstream, but the smart money has been moving there for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to this idea they call geography as destiny.
What does that mean, geography as destiny?
It means that South Africa has a unique combination of factors, time zone, language, and culture, that make it almost perfectly engineered for Western business support.
Okay, let's start with language. Because everyone claims to speak English. I have had customer service calls where the person spoke English, but we were definitely not communicating.
Right. There is textbook proficiency, and then there is native fluency. South Africa ranks in the top 10 globally for English proficiency, but it goes deeper than grammar. It is about cultural literacy.
Nuance, sarcasm, the stuff that doesn't translate easily.
Exactly. South Africa has a complex history, but the result is a society heavily influenced by British and American media and culture. They get the jokes. They understand the idiom. The notes emphasize that there is almost zero translation layer awkwardness.
One of the testimonials in the research packet was really telling. It said, in my first week working with my VAConnect assistant, I forgot she wasn't local.
That's the goal.
It went on, no weird formality. She understood context. That is huge for a busy founder. You do not want to spend 20 minutes explaining how to write an email. You just want it written.
Precisely. It removes friction. But the second factor, and I think this is the logistical superpower, is the time zone.
Right. South Africa is GMT +2, so that is, what, 7 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time in the U.S.?
Depending on daylight savings, yes. They are ahead of the U.S. Now, usually, being ahead is a problem. If you hire in Asia, you are often dealing with a 12-hour flip.
Someone has to work the graveyard shift.
Exactly, the vampire shift,
Yeah.
which is terrible for health and retention.
Horrible.
But with South Africa, you get the follow the sun benefit without the human cost. Let me paint a picture.
Go for it.
You are an Austin founder. You finish your day at 6 p.m. You are tired, but you have a list of stuff that needs to get done. Research on a competitor, updating the CRM, drafting 5 emails. You dump all of that into Slack before you drive home.
Okay, I'm with you.
At that moment, it is roughly midnight or 1:00 a.m. in Cape Town. Your VA is sleeping, but they wake up at 7 a.m. their time, which is midnight your time. They work a full, productive day while you are asleep.
So while I'm sleeping, work is getting done.
Correct. By the time you wake up at 7 a.m. in Austin and grab your coffee, those tasks are done. They are sitting in your inbox.
That is actually incredibly efficient. It basically turns your company into a 24-hour operation without anyone having to work overnight.
It effectively extends your business day.
Yeah.
And for European clients, there's actually a direct overlap of 4 to 8 hours.
So it works for both continents.
It does. And the notes mention that VAConnect specifically recruits for flexibility. Many of their VAs will shift their hours working, say, 11:00 a.m. to 8:00 p.m. Cape Town time to ensure they have a 2 to 3 hour overlap with the U.S. morning for Zoom calls and syncs.
So you get the best of both worlds, the night shift productivity plus face-to-face meetings, but nobody's destroying their sleep cycle to do it.
Correct. That's the magic of that specific time zone.
Okay, so the language works, the time zone works. Now we have to talk about the elephant in the room.
The money.
The money, the economic arbitrage.
This is where the math gets really interesting. And again, we have to talk about currency. The exchange rate between the U.S. dollar and the South African rand is approximately 18 to 1.
18 to 1. That is a massive spread.
It is huge. So let's look at a salary of 30,000 rand per month.
Okay, 30,000 rand.
Now, in South Africa, specifically in a city like Cape Town, 30,000 rand is a solid middle-class income. It provides a good standard of living. You can have a nice apartment, a car, go out to eat.
So it's a desirable salary there.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Now, what is that in U.S. dollars?
At 18 to 1,
Yeah.
it's what, under 2,000?
Roughly $1,667
Wait, 1,600, that is it, for a month.
for a month.
So for less than $2,000 a month, you are paying a salary that is considered middle class and desirable in South Africa.
Exactly. And that is the win-win dynamic that the source material stresses. This isn't sweatshop labor. You are not exploiting people by paying them pennies.
No, you're paying them a very good local wage.
A great local wage. It allows them to live well in their local economy. And remember, South Africa has a lower cost of living and different healthcare structures, while the U.S. company saves 60 to 70% compared to hiring locally.
It is strictly economic arbitrage. You are taking advantage of the currency strength, not the worker's desperation.
Precisely. You are matching talent to markets where the economics make sense for everyone involved.
But here is the question I have, and I'm sure a lot of founders listening are thinking this. If South Africa is so great, why do I need VAConnect?
The middleman question.
Yeah, why can't I just go on Upwork or Fiverr, type in Cape Town, and hire someone myself? Why pay a middleman?
Ah, the wild west of freelancing. This is a trap so many business owners fall into. They think, I'll just cut out the agency and save the markup.
I have been there. You post a job, you get 200 applications, half of them look like bots, the other half didn't even read the description.
It's chaos. And that is the marketplace problem. Platforms like Upwork are transactional. It is a race to the bottom on price. You are looking for the cheapest option, and the freelancer is looking for the easiest gig. There is very little vetting.
And the ghosting. The notes here mention a Russian roulette of hiring strangers.
It really is.
There is the story of an e-commerce owner who hired 4 VAs in 6 months. One padded hours, one just disappeared, one got a full-time job and quit with 2 days' notice.
That is the hidden cost of the marketplace model. The management overhead falls on you. You have to vet them. You have to train them. You have to chase them if they disappear.
It becomes your second job.
It does. VAConnect operates completely differently. They are not a platform. They are a managed virtual assistant agency.
So explain the distinction. What does managed actually mean in this context? What am I paying for?
It starts with a history. The company was founded in 2008, originally called LineTree Consulting, and rebranded to VAConnect in 2014. It is led by Karen Van Zyl.
So they've been around for a while.
Over a decade. The key distinction is that the client is not the employer in the traditional sense. VAConnect is the employer.
So they handle the HR, the payroll, the taxes, all of that stuff in South Africa.
They handle everything. And it starts with vetting. They don't just take anyone with a laptop and an internet connection. They use 3 different personality and aptitude tests.
Okay.
They have interviews with department heads or the CEO herself. They are specifically looking for cultural fit. Can this person integrate into a fast-paced Western business environment?
That is huge. I mean, skills you can teach, but attitude and cultural fit are hard to fake. You either have it or you don't.
Precisely. And then there's the management layer. This is what managed really means.
Yeah.
When you hire through VAConnect, you don't just get the VA, you get a manager who monitors their performance.
So there's oversight?
There's oversight and continuity. If the VA is sick or goes on vacation, the agency provides backup coverage.
That is the continuity piece.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. If my freelancer on Upwork gets the flu, I'm just out of luck for a week. But here, the agency steps in.
And the stats back it up. They boast a 98% retention rate over 14 months.
Wow.
In the gig economy, that is unheard of.
98%. That is higher than most local Austin companies. I mean, that's better than the story we started with.
It is. And it speaks to the ecosystem they have built.
Yeah.
It is not just about placing a body in a seat. It is about training and culture. This leads us to what the sources call the ecosystem of success.
I noticed that in the notes. They have these internal brands and programs, VA Varsity, Atomic Energy. It sounds more like a tech campus than a staffing agency.
It does. Let's talk about VA Varsity. This is their proprietary training platform. Think of it like a private Udemy or Coursera, just for their staff.
Okay. So what are they learning on VA Varsity?
Everything a modern business needs. Xero, QuickBooks for accounting, HubSpot, Salesforce for sales, and CRM. The entire Adobe Creative Cloud.
So these are high-value, marketable skills.
Very. But the insight here is that this isn't just onboarding training. It is continuous. It is career development.
That is smart. Because one of the reasons people leave jobs, going back to our Austin EA example, is they feel stagnant. They feel like they are not learning or growing.
Exactly. By offering this continuous upskilling, VAConnect keeps the VAs engaged. They're becoming more valuable assets over time, both to the client and to themselves.
And it benefits the client directly because their VA is getting better every month.
Correct. And then there is the wellness side, Atomic Energy.
Atomic Energy. I love the name. It sounds like a superhero potion.
It's a wellness initiative, diet, exercise programs, mental mobility coaching. It addresses the reality of remote work, burnout.
Which is very real.
Very. Sitting at a desk in your house all day can be isolating and physically draining. By actively managing this, they keep their team healthy and productive.
And vapiness, which I assume stands for VA happiness.
That is the two-way happiness program. It is about managing the relationship between the client and the VA.
How does that work?
It ensures the remote worker feels connected to the client's team, but also remains connected to the VAConnect team in South Africa. It prevents that feeling of being an island, of just being a contractor floating in space.
They are really focused on finding and keeping the 1% of the 1%. It sounds like a Navy SEAL's approach to virtual assistants.
In a way, yes. They are filtering for high performers and then building a support structure to keep them performing at that level for the long haul.
Okay, we have talked about the quality, we have talked about the vetting, the culture. Now we have to open the spreadsheet.
The fun part.
Let's get down to the hard numbers. We have arrived at section 4, the financials.
A spreadsheet moment. Let's do a direct comparison. Scenario A. You are that Austin agency we talked about. You hired 2 employees in-house.
Okay, 2 employees. Base salaries, let's say 50 to 60K each, plus all those hidden costs, taxes, insurance, office space.
Based on the Austin arithmetic we did earlier, the total annual fully loaded cost for those 2 employees is going to be roughly $150,000.
$150,000? That is a serious chunk of change for a small business.
It's huge. Now, scenario B, you go the VAConnect route. You hire 2 VAs.
Yeah.
The total annual cost for 2 full-time VAs ranges from $60,000 to $84,000, depending on their level of expertise and the package you choose.
So doing the math, that is a savings of roughly $66,000 to $90,000 a year.
Annually. For a small agency doing, say, $2.4 million in revenue, that one decision improves their net margins by nearly 3% to 4%.
That is pure profit falling to the bottom line.
Pure profit.
Yeah.
Or it is money you can reinvest in marketing or product development or giving yourself a raise for once.
That is incredible. And you are not sacrificing quality. In fact, based on the retention stats, you might be getting better stability.
You're getting more stability for less money.
Let's look at the specific packages because I like how they have structured this. It is not just pay by the hour. They have tiers.
Right. Let's start with their most popular one, the Forge package. That is $4,380 per month.
And what does that get you?
That gets you 40 hours a week, a full-time, single point of contact EVA executive virtual assistant. But here is the kicker. You also get access to the full team of specialists.
Wait, unpack that. So I hire one person, but I get access to a team.
Correct. Your EVA is your project manager. If you need a graphic design task done or a bit of copy written for a social media post, your EVA can tap into the VAConnect specialist pool to get it done.
So I'm not limited by my one hire's skill set.
Exactly. You are not just hiring one brain, you are hiring a gateway to an entire department.
That is really smart because usually my admin assistant doesn't know how to use Photoshop. But here they can just hand it off to someone who does and it's all included.
It's all part of the package. Then you have the Summit package at $6,080 a month for 60 hours a week.
A person and a half, essentially.
Right. And the Apex package at $8,800 for 100 hours a week.
100 hours a week. That is basically a department in a box. You could run your whole operations with that.
It is. And for smaller needs, they have dedicated specialist packages, like a starter package for $1,038 a month.
What's that for?
That gives you 10 hours a week of a marketing or sales specialist.
That is perfect for a startup that just needs a little help but can't afford a full-time hire. You get a specialist for a fraction of the cost.
It allows you to scale. You start with 10 hours, prove the ROI, and then you can confidently move to the Forge package.
Now, you mentioned specialist packages. I think this is an important distinction we need to make. We often think of VAs as just inbox managers.
Right, the stereotype.
People who schedule meetings and delete spam, but VAConnect seems to go way beyond that.
They do. And this is section 5 in our notes. Specialized roles. It is a myth that remote workers can only do low-level admin. It's just not true anymore.
So what kind of roles are we talking about?
Marketing assistants who can handle strategy, content creation, social media management from end to end.
So not just posting, but actually creating the content.
Creating and strategizing. Then there are sales assistants who do lead generation, prospecting, and manage your CRM HubSpot Salesforce.
That is high-value work. If you have someone cleaning up your Salesforce data and finding qualified leads, that is directly driving revenue.
Exactly. They also have software engineers, world-class coders and developers, and project managers who can coordinate distributed teams.
So really, you could build almost your entire back office or even your dev team through this model.
That is the idea. You can scale your entire operation without ever having to sign an office lease in Austin.
But I want to touch on the human element again, because there is this robot myth. The idea that a remote worker is just a task rabbit, an emotionless cog in a machine somewhere.
It is a dangerous stereotype, and it's
Yeah.
really dehumanizing, and the source material shares the story of Forfindi to counter this.
Okay, tell us about Thandi.
So Thandi is a 32-year-old from Johannesburg. She is a graduate of the University of Cape Town, which is a top-tier university like the Harvard of South Africa.
Okay.
She is a former corporate consultant. She used to work for one of the big firms.
So she has a serious pedigree. She is not fresh out of high school.
Absolutely not. She chose remote work, not because she couldn't get a job locally, but for work-life balance. She wanted to avoid the commute, avoid the office politics.
A choice a lot of us can relate to.
For sure. And she now works with C-level executives at a U.S. tech company on strategic planning.
So she is not just booking flights. She is in the board meetings, metaphorically. She is helping run the company.
She is a trusted advisor. She helps prepare board decks. She does competitive analysis. And that is the reality of the talent pool in South Africa. You are getting professionals who are choosing this lifestyle, not people who are settling for it.
And what about security? That is the other big fear. I am sending my passwords halfway across the world.
It's a valid concern. Any business owner should be thinking about that. But VAConnect uses enterprise-grade security.
Like what?
They use a platform called Bittrex 24 Cloud, so there are no local files sitting on someone's personal laptop. Everything is in a secure, audited cloud environment.
Okay, that's good.
They use LastPass for password management, so the VA never actually sees the raw password. They get access, but they can't copy it. And of course, encrypted channels for all communication and strict NDAs.
Honestly, their security protocols are probably tighter than most small businesses in Austin have internally.
That is probably true. I have my passwords on sticky notes under my keyboard,
We all do.
which we will talk about in another deep dive on cybersecurity. But yes, the integration is seamless. They Skype into weekly meetings, they use Slack, they know the clients by name, they are part of the team.
It really sounds like a comprehensive solution. So as we start to wrap this up, let's look at the productivity reality check.
Yeah.
Because the old school mentality is still out there. If I can't see them, they aren't working.
The data absolutely destroys that argument. A famous Stanford study showed a 13% productivity increase with remote work.
13% is significant.
It is. But that's not all. A company called ProtoScore, which analyzes workforce activity, reported a 47% increase in productivity for remote teams.
47%. That is almost double the output. How is that even possible?
When you remove the office distractions, the water cooler talk, the, hey, do you have a minute, interruptions, the commute stress people just get more done. It is deep work versus shallow work.
And this brings us to the expert's final synthesis. What is the real takeaway here? What's the one thing you want listeners to remember?
The shift to a model like VAConnect isn't just about saving money. Yes, the $66,000 in savings is great, but it is about cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Explain that for the listeners.
As a founder, you have a limited amount of decision-making energy every day. If you are spending that energy managing HR drama, worrying about parking spots, refereeing office politics, or stressing about payroll taxes, all the stuff that isn't your actual business.
Exactly. You have less energy for your product, your customers, and your growth. You are managing the noise, not the signal.
So by offloading all that,
When you offload the administrative and operational heavy lifting to a managed agency, you free up your own brain space. You stop managing problems and start managing results.
that is the future of work. It feels like an inevitable shift.
It is. Austin SMEs and really global businesses face a choice. You can adapt to global talent markets, or you can bleed cash fighting for local talent in a rigged game.
So for the listener who is intrigued, maybe a bit skeptical, but willing to try, what is the call to action? How do they actually do this without betting the farm?
The advice is simple. Start with one role. Don't fire everyone tomorrow. Don't close your office.
Dip your toe in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pick one role that is bottlenecking you. Maybe it is bookkeeping. Maybe it is social media. Maybe it is that executive assistant role that you can't fill.
And just try it. Contact VAConnect. Give it 3 months. That is the magic number. It takes time to adjust systems and get used to asynchronous communication. But after 3 months, once the rhythm is established, then you look at the ROI, and then you scale.
I love that. Practical, low risk. It is not an all-or-nothing pivot.
It is the only way to validate it for yourself. You see the results, you feel the relief, and then you know it's real.
Well, this has been an eye-opener. I think we have successfully debunked the idea that hiring has to be a nightmare. It just might require a passport, metaphorically speaking.
Indeed. The world is smaller than we think, and the talent pool is deeper than we realize.
I want to leave our listeners with this final provocative thought from our sources, and I think this sums it all up perfectly.
Let's hear it.
The global talent revolution arrived 5 years ago. The question isn't whether you can afford to hire offshore, it's whether you can afford to keep paying the location premium for a desk in Austin when the best person for the job, who will actually stay with you, might be waiting in Cape Town.
A powerful question to end on. Really makes you think.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We will catch you next time.